da 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 do da do do da da dee da da dee da da dee da 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 do 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 da 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 do 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 da do 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 da 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 dee ואהבה שונא אהבתיך על כן משכתי חסד ואהבה שונא אהבתיך על כן משכתי חסד ההודים ימושו והגבוס תמותנה וחסדי מאיתך לא ימות ההודים ימושו והגבוס תמותנה וחסדי מאיתך לא ימות da 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 do 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 dee 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 da da dee da da dee da 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 do 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 da do do da dee da dee da da dee da da dee da ay 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 an everlasting love I have loved you for this I have drawn you with my love an everlasting love I have loved you for this I have drawn you with my love the mountains will crumble and the hillside will fade away, but my love for you will not end. The mountains will crumble and the hillside will fade away, but my love for you will not end. Chazak everyone. Da 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 dee dee do da dee dee oh da 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 dee da da dee dee da 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 do 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 dee 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 da da dee dee da 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 dee okay. We gotta inject some simcha. That wasn't simcha, but you have to sing a more simcha dika nigan right now. Because like we learned last week with Rabbi Nachman, Alidei Mara Shchar ve'atzvus ena yachol lahanig moichek yirtzona. We can't really direct our minds in a manner with which we want to direct them through the bitterness, through the darkness. So let's sing the Baal Shem Tov's nigan. We know how to sing it, our chevra. Let's sing it strong. Ay lay 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 ay lay lay ay lay lay ah did it ay lay 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 ay lay lay ay lay lay ay lay lay ah ay lay 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 ah did it ay lay 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 ay lay lay Clap your hands, let's go. Okay, חברים, בטווח, שבוע טוב. שבוע טוב מבורך, שנשמע ונתבשר בסייס טויבס ישועות ונחמס. Thank you so much, Chevy, for those that were with us, Kabbalah Shabbos, virtually, of course, last night, and everything else. I want to get straight to learning, but I want us today to dive in strong. I have a name that we have to add that's very close to our home. Be'ezrat Hashem, everything will be okay, but we have to storm the Shemaim. Our dearest Chevra, Noach and Shira Rosenberg, Shira's Abba, Rabbi Chill. Rabbi Chill is in the hospital right now in Farakaway. And we've been privileged to hear so much Divrei Torah from him over the years. I'm putting his name right now into the chat. If I could figure out how to, yes. His name is Harav Shal Ze'ev Ben Devora. Please take this name. And I want the learning that we're going to be doing right now should be for his refuah. Be'ezer Hashem, he's a big Talmud of Reb Shlomo. And he's our Chaver, Rabbi Chill, from the Rabbi of Young Israel of Farakaway. Mamish lives down the block from my brother. I spoke to my brother, Erev Shabbos, to Eitan. You know what, for the Chaverim that don't know yet, my brother bought 8 one-way tickets for his family this coming summer. He's coming home, Baruch Hashem. And that's a huge win. Yes, Chaim David, huge win. But Be'ezrat Hashem, what needs to happen is that everyone should follow him. Be'ezrat Hashem, the gate should open. This is Mamish Eretz Asher Einei Hashem Elokecha Ba, Miresi Hashana V'Achris Shana. In the Schus of Eretz Yisrael, we should send refuahs to the whole world, to the whole ganze Welt. Shem, if you could please pull up the text for today. For those of you that are joining for the first time, Chaz Geshem, we've been learning the Piasetzner Rebbe's Torahs for many years now. And we're in the middle of Tzav V'Ziruz, which is basically diary entries of the Rebbe that were done between the years 1928 and 1939. We've seen stuff in here, startling stuff, Chomer that's been really, really heart-wrenching, but so raw, so to the core. Now, as I'm sure you're saying in your own learning as well, somehow, everything that we're learning these days is like, doesn't matter what sefer you're pulling from, it's all shaykh to what's going on right now. It doesn't stop. That's the kesem, that's the, I don't like to use the word magic or zgula, but that's this koyach HaTorah. The koyach HaTorah is that like my Rosh Yeshiva of Bravender should have bemet strong health and good news. Rav Bravender taught us in Yeshiva to believe in the Torah, meaning to believe, not that it's true, that's a vaday, but to believe that what you're learning is calling out to you and you'll figure out what you're looking for without even knowing you're looking for it. And he believed the koach HaTorah, Pshat in Rashi, Pshat in Tosfos had the koach to answer the stuff that you really want to understand about yourself and about the world. This piece we have over here from the Piasetzner Rebbe today. This is another incredible piece. We're just going to do Os Chafei today. This is in Tzav V'Ziruz. I hope you're all able to see this. If there's any shaylas, any problems, just type into the chat, but it should be fine for all of you to see this. B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. And this is again for the Refuah Shlema of Harav Shaul Ze'ev ben Devora. The Rebbe says like this, I don't know what year exactly it was written, but we have a little bit of an inkling, we have a little bit of a remez as to what year this was written, but based on a footnote, which we'll see in a second. The Rebbe says, Al tifku lamemit atzmo bilvad. B'cho b'cha gam laholech v'met. Now this can be understood on two levels, two main levels. One is don't cry over someone that is dying, or Rahman al-Islam, like we'll see in this piece, those that take their own lives. You should cry, you should mourn, you should be sad over the walking dead. What he's referring to is something we'll see in a second, but as the Rebbe has always told us, through whether it's Bnei Machshava Tova, whether it's Chovas Talmidim, whether it's Eish Kodesh, whether it's any of the Sachshas Avrechim, in all the Sfarim, the Rebbe is saying what people cry over is an indicator as to where they're holding. That's really the indicator, and that's why he had us do that visualization of our own funerals, that we're going to hear crying of people walking after our body, and we can't do anything about it. Then wake up from the visualization and realize you're chai v'kayim, you're alive. What kind of tzar do you want to prevent from people that are going to miss you that you weren't able to do in the world yet? And those exercises of visualizations were some of the most powerful moments we had in Shir. But the Rebbe is saying over here is that the world is accustomed to seeing the concept of mavet, of death, and that's what they cry over. But a person that's still breathing, that doesn't fall under that category of pain, of emotional pain. When the Rebbe says you should cry over holech lamet, that's crazy. And I'm thinking about this now, is that we have this whole mishigas going on in the world of people that are mamish dying, literally. But then, who doesn't fall under the category of who we're sad over? Those that aren't contracted with the virus. As if you have the virus and Khalila you die, you're in the dark place. But if you're alive and you're still alive, then you're fine. It's only potentially then you're fine. The Rebbe is drilled into us always to understand the concept and the danger of being someone that's the walking dead. Continue. You know what the world is kvetching over right now? Chaim becoming Hefker. Ve'al hamit'abdim et atzmam lada'at shenitrebu Rahman al-Islam. And those that are mamish committing suicide, that it's happening more and more. Now we're going to understand when the Rebbe is referring to. Go down to the footnote. Bishnot Taf Reish Pei Vav Taf Reish Pei Chet. That's 1926 to 28. Matzok ha'itim liYisrael, ve'rabim mehem nitmotetu miparnasatam, nitrabu ha'me'oraot shel ibud ladat Rahman al-Islam. The years that the Rebbe is speaking about over here is in between the two world wars. After when people speak about World War I, people speak about World War II, they focus so much about, especially World War II, but let's go for first, to the First World War. When we speak about the pain of the First World War, which really in light of the Second World War, we never even really understand or think about the horrific consequences that those days had. But when we do speak about World War I, we think about the war itself and how bad it was and how many people were killed there and how much pain was happening during the war. The Rebbe is saying to us what happened after the war, people don't speak about. Financial crisis, which what you and I are tasting on a very, very small level, not to belittle anyone's own tsar, but this chas v'sholom, we're all freaking out on a certain level. On a certain level, we're not, but obviously we're all wondering, okay, I put away enough for a week or two, but what's going to be now? saying back then, the financial crisis that was the result of such a churban of the Olam in World War II, World War I, brought many people within the Jewish community to take their own lives. And there was such a sa'ar, there was such a pain taking place by everyone over the fact that this was becoming something that was davar yadua, that you'd walk around, people were taking their own lives. And everyone's worried were only over those that were killing themselves. Now, of course, Rahman al-Islam, that's such a horrible thing. But look back, go back now into the Rebbe's words. Va'ani mosif, but the Rebbe is saying, but I'm worried. Va'ani mosif lid'og gam al hachai ha'olech. What I'm worried about just as much is worried about those that are breathing, they're walking, people that are alive. The extent of their life is that the fact that is just the mere fact that they're walking, that they're breathing. Lo hemitet atzmam, they didn't take their lives, umikol makom meso, but nonetheless, they are literally dead. Now his concept of death is the next line. What's death? What's walking death? Hachaim na'asa zol vehefker. Life has become zol vehefker. Zol obviously means cheap, and hefker, I'm not sure what the right word would be to explain what hefker means, but you know what it means. Life itself has become nothing. The value of life has become nothing. It's lo lichyot or lo lichyot achati. By people like this, whether they're alive, whether they're not alive, it's not really such a difference. It is what it is. I'm alive today. I'm gone tomorrow. Now, I'm sure you've been hearing the same thing I'm hearing by everyone, by any shir I'm tuning into, any rav I'm trying to be mushpah from, and any chaver that I'm connecting to. They're all saying the same thing. The world is never going to go back to what it was after this, right? Now, what does that mean? It seems to me that's a tefillah. That's not a statement of saying this is already happening. It's a tefillah. Alavai, the world should not go back to what it was. Alavai, this mabul should just finish its shtifa, and whatever the hasagas should be already learned. But when we say the world is never going to go back to what it was, our davening is that anyone that for them life was zol v'hefker, for anyone that the decision to be alive or not be alive is not a big decision, should be wiped away, should be washed away. When we go back to the world now, that's the world we're coming back to. A life that we realize if we have the privilege to be alive right now, Zol v'hefker is not an option. It's not an option. But we have to fill in the blank of what that means. Okay, we know what Zol v'hefker is. You know, I had this freaky thought over Shabbos. And since it's not, this is just the chaverim here, I'm going to share it with you. I probably wouldn't say this yet. I don't know. But I had this startling feeling. This is pretty wild, but I had this feeling about drugs that when people come to Shamayim, so whatever hana'as they had from drugs in this world, a little bit of Gan Eden is deducted from them based on the highs that they experienced in this world. That was a thought I had a long time ago. But I had a different thought now. In Shamayim, they're going to show us a video. Now, we all know the famous Torah. Rabbi Shlomo said in the Baal Shem Tov that what's the difference between heaven and hell? That when you get to Shamayim, they're going to show you two videotapes. One is what your life could have been, and two is what your life was. Rabbi Shlomo says in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, heaven is when they only have one videotape to show you. Hell is when there actually are two different videotapes. I had this thought that our door, maybe when it says we're not going to go back to the world the way it was, maybe it means like this. When we get to Shamayim, you know what Gehenna is going to be? It's going to be that they're going to make us sit through every moment of looking at ourselves when we were like this. crazy, huh? Every moment of this, they're going to say, this is what we want to show you. What do you mean? There's so much Torah. There's so much... Say there. We know. Let's go deeper. I know, you know what I'm talking about. All the Zol Hefker moments of our life. All the minutes, the accumulation of minutes that have become nothing. Nothing. I personally am startled from what they might show us to us with parents of young children. That they're going to show us all the minutes that our child was next to us when this thing was in front of our face. The Rebbe is saying, I'm worried more about those that are alive walking around with minutes and minutes accumulating of being nothing. Hefker, nothing. And now we see a new world. And the Chevra that I'm talking to, some of us that are here with us today, the way we've been using our time now has been crazy. People have been learning now more than they've ever learned in their life. People have been davening now more than they've ever davened. So the Rebbe says, it's those that are me'abed atzmam ladas. We know that according to halacha, you're not supposed to bury someone that takes their own life in the same cemetery, in the same chelka as other people. But I've been to a number of these situations in Islam that we don't necessarily hold like this. They're actually buried in the same area. Someone that takes them. How could it be? Because we hold halachically, we say that a person that takes their own life literally wasn't in their own right mind in the time of taking their own life. So a person can't consciously decide to take their own life. So therefore we bury them in the regular spot. But you know what's crazy? A person can consciously choose to make their life hefker day and night. Day and night. Let me just shut this off, I'm sorry. So the Rebbe continues in the second paragraph. Mitchila haya hayetzer hara tzarich lehitametz להביא את האיש לידי כפירה בדין ודיין רחמנא ליצלן עד שיבגוד בשם אלוקיו חס ושלום. It used to be that the Yetzer Hara had to work many hours overtime in order to bring a Yid to a conclusion that he doesn't believe. And that non-believing that he comes to will lead the person to do begida, which means to betray HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Yetzer had to work very hard on this. V'lo benakel, v'lo tamid alta lo zot. And it didn't always work for the Yetzer Hara. So it used to be that for a person to treat his life as hefker, the Yetzer Hara had to come up with all these tachbulos, all these tricks, and had to work so hard on the person until they came to the realization and to the decision that I'm not into this. Lo rotze et ze. This is not for me. And the Rebbe is saying, but a Yid's neshama was so passionate that the Yetzer Hara couldn't always crack through to push a person towards this decision of betraying God. And now the Rebbe says, Ve'ata hitbonanti, and the Rebbe is saying this is probably one of the earlier diary entries, right? 1928, 1929. Ve'ata hitbonanti, but now I'm looking around, Ve'ra'iti anashim she'einam kofrim, I see people that are not kofrim. They didn't come to decisions of becoming a kofir. They're walking around in the world. They have strength. But what? Rak mipnei ha'anochi shelahem shehuzal ve'ufkar etzlam. But you know what happened to these people? Their concept of self-worth, their concept of what they can contribute to the world has become hefker. They reached the same place that the other Yidala, who had to be persuaded and go through all these milchamas in his mind by the Yetzer Hara, that person and this Yid today are reaching the same place of what? Life is hefker. A person used to have to go through this whole transformation of off the derech and against Hashem, not into Torah, which would lead him to a life of hefker. Here the Rebbe is saying, I see people with beards down to their pupik. I see people that are kiviyachol so into life and so alive, but so frum and everything, but they themselves, because their own self-worth, their anochi shelaim huzal vehufkar etzlam. Whether I watch 8 movies today or whether I learn for 8 hours, there's no difference between the two. It doesn't matter. My inyan is that I'm not really a chiddush in the world. And if I'm not a chiddush in the world, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. Like we see musicians who come to horrible states of self-betrayal of their own neshama because they don't feel that their music is changing the world. You know, my friend Naftali Kalfa always tells me a very smart line. He says to me, Katz, he calls me Katz. Him and Rav Bravin, they're the only people that call me Katz. He says, Katz, tell all your chevra, there's no one song that ever changed the world. Everyone thinks there's one song that changed it. There are a lot of songs that made a lot of things beautiful. There are a lot of songs that have done nice things for people. But if you're basing your self-worth on whether, the world is changing based on what I'm doing or not, you're going to come to a very quick self-convincing that your own anochi huzal vehufkar, that your own self-worth is nothing, is nobody. We have to redefine what it means that life, what it means that life is worth something. That's what needs to become redefined. I saw on Shabbos, I told the Chavah last night online, Reb Nosson says that Reb Nachman's whole Azamra is based on the small aleph in Vayikra, in the Aleph Ze'ira. The Aleph Ze'ira is the Nekuda Ktana, is the Nekuda Tova. The whole avoda of today is Azamra. It's looking at a Nekuda Tova and not looking at anything else, and just zooming in on that until you identify yourself with the Nekuda Tova that you see in yourself. This is where we're going. So if you have a Nekuda Tova, if you're a musician and you got one email or one text message from someone that said, I want you to know, you made my Shabbos, the avoda is to not go and think about all the other people that didn't send you that email. Because then your life will become huzal vehufkar. Zol and Hefker will become the way that you live your life. It's to just look at that one person's text, one person's email. And that's easy for musicians because people like to express their appreciation to Baalei Negina. But it's true with everything. We try in our Chabura to make this a chiyuv by all of us. This is how we talk to each other, pointing out all the time whenever someone's done something very special for us, giving them this Aleph Ze'ira, this Nekuda Tova to zone in, to focus in on it. What pained the Rebbe so much, and we speak about this all the time, what pained the Piasetzner so much is that he was under the impression, rightfully so, not that I'm to say that his impressions were right, but we can understand this now. The Rebbe felt that Chassidim forgot what the Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov was. It's very simple. The Rebbe is already speaking to people that are 150 years removed from the Baal Shem. And he sees that the point is forgotten. It's not it anymore. People are forgetting what it was all about. People are forgetting. People have to realize that your own Anochi cannot become Zol. It cannot become Hefker. Yeah. Hey. Here. Want to say hi to the Chavah?
Sorry. Hi, Chavah.
It can't, the Baal Shem Tov's whole inyan is that if you're a nefesh elokis mimal, how can you make anything zol and hefker about your life? How can you be a person that doesn't think that it matters if I'm alive or I'm dead? What about the godly soul that's within you? Does it matter if that's alive and if that's in this world or not? If it's about you, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But if it's about us, of course it matters. And the Rebbe sing, like again, Be'atayit bonanti v'ra'iti anashim she'enam kofrim ve'holchim b'shrilut libam rak mipnei ha'anochi shelahem shehuzal v'ufkar etzlam. Yamut, the last 4 words here. Yamut, Yichyeh, Gan Eden, Now the next page. Gehenom, lemi, la'anochi shelo. Heaven, hell, all these things, it doesn't matter to him. He's not thinking at all in terms of where anything is leading to. Because he doesn't think that he has anything to contribute, he doesn't think he's anybody. Va'anochi huzal ve'ufkar etzlo. And the Anochi Hashem Elokecha that's alive in him too has become so cheapened and has been made Hefker by him. Ve'eno kedai letapel bo ve'lidog avuro. And you know what? I have to worry about making sure that all those other things are taken care of. But to make sure that I'm taken care of, meaning that the real purpose for which I came to this world is taken care of, that's a luxury. It's not a must. And the Rebbe is saying, ma pitom. That's not a luxury. That is a must. For your anochi to stop being hefker, for you to stop having a cheap self-worth, self-identification, that is not a luxury. That's a must. Asher korcha baderech, the Rebbe says, krirus bakol, af be'atzmusa. There's coldness, but Amalek means coldness in everything, even in the way that you relate to your own life. I heard our Rabbi Rav Weinberger say on Friday, I think, Corona is the same lashon, asher karcha baderech, right? So I'm looking at this piece of the Rebbe right now, and I'm realizing, Chaverim, it's okay, Shem, you could pull it off. Thank you. I'm realizing that, just to share with you what I'm going through, Chaver, when we say that we're not going back to the way the world was, what does that mean? When we say we're not going back to it, part of tshuva, we know obviously charata and everything, but part of tshuva, according to the Rambam, is very simple. Kabbalah al haba. That means I'm already determining, I'm already deciding what I'm going to look like, what life is going to be like afterwards. So on any level that we can understand these inyanim, what is the Kabbalah that each and every one of us is doing now about what's going to be? The world that we're going to be greeted, the world that we're going to greet and the world that's going to greet us once this whole Mishigas is over. What area, according to the piece we saw right now by the Piasetzner, what area in our life can we identify now that has become Zol and Hefker? What area is it? That takes, 80 sessions of Hisbodedus to begin to scratch the surface of it. But this is why Reb Nachman was urging us all to tell Hashem stories, because while we're going to tell Hashem Yisbarach stories about how I felt, these things will definitely come up to the surface. What area in my life is Zol v'Hefker? Now, the Rebbe is not, remember, he's not speaking about kofrim. That's what used to be, like the Rebbe said. It used to be a kofer with someone who gave up on life, because he came to a decision that he's done with God. And the Yetzer Hara was able to check it. Now it's not even about that anymore. It's about you and I taking a look at our Yiddishkeit. And I'm going to say something very, very charif right now, but I can. Push it. Reb Shlomo turned around from the bima on his last Tfilas Ne'ilah of Yom Kippur. Okay, I have a friend that was standing there. He turned around before he started Ashrei, last Ne'ilah of Yom Kippur. And he said, Chevra, you can make Avodah Zarah out of anything. You can make Avodah Zarah out of the Shulchan Aruch. You can make Avodah Zarah out of the Torah. You can make Avodah Zarah even out of God, he said. He turned around, he started Ashrei, his last Ne'ilah, and he died a few weeks later. And whenever I think about that story, it always makes me uncompromisingly look into where have I made Avodah Zarah out of my Shmiras HaMitzvahs. What has become in my holy service of God, Be'emet, Zol v'Hefker. We're seeing people today that have this insane, immature concept. It's not their fault, but it's a very immature concept of Ratzon Hashem. What's the immature concept of Ratzon Hashem? There's a plague. It's sweeping through hundreds of thousands of people. But what? A frum yid davens in a minyan. A frum yid stays alive also. There's an Indian. A frum yid stays alive. Zol v'hefker. If your anochi has become zol v'hefker, then those things that you're so attached to, that you've made avodah zara out of, you won't stop it. The Malach HaMavis can be out in the streets sweeping away. Nah, you won't stop him. Ze lo yaziz lecha. Ze lo yaziz lecha. Understand, it's coming from a holy place, but it's warped. Because this is l'chol zman ba'es tachas hashamayim. The example of minyan is just one example of mitzvahs that have become chametz. Because minyan is not about. I saw an amazing thing. This one mamish blew me away. Minyan is not about how often. It's not when you come to Shemaim they're going to ask you, did you ever miss a minyan? When you come to Shemaim, they're going to ask you, did you ever miss an opportunity to stand in front of the Borei Olam? That's what they're going to ask you. So I saw something. Someone said, I have to just read for you one last thing, and I'm sorry. We have another thing going on soon, so I have to end it for now. But I just want this inyan of such an important thing of making sure our lives aren't hefker. I saw something, maybe you saw it as well. This is a story that was said over by Rabbi Herschel Hissiger. He's a grandson of Rabbi Yamin Kamenetsky. So he said that there were a group of boys that were driving from New York to Boston to go to a chasna of their friend, and the trip was getting late, and they realized that if they drive nonstop, they'll arrive just in time for the chuppah, right? But they'll miss the local minyan in Boston, the local mincha minyan in Boston, which would mean they'd have to daven without a minyan afterwards. But if they make a stop on the way, they can catch a minyan in a small town somewhere on the highway, but they'll miss their best friend's chuppah. So they weren't sure what they'd do. So they called the Rosh Yeshiva. It was a yeshiva called Zichron Melech, and the Rosh Yeshiva's name was Rav Chaim Leib Epstein. It was the yeshiva in Brooklyn. And they asked him, what do you think? And Rav Epstein said, what's the shayla? Go straight to the wedding and daven without a minyan. And one of the students said, but Rebbe, I never missed a minyan in my life. How can I miss one today just in order to be at a chuppah? Sounds chashuv, right? So Rosh Yeshiva said to him, you don't daven with a minyan every day to make it to the Guinness Book of World Records. You do so because that's what Hashem wants you to do today. But today, Hashem wants you to go to Boston to be with Simcha at your friend's chasana, and that's what you should do. I found this story to be, I have it, I could send it out to you. I find this story to be today's Torah. We've made Ratzon Hashem immature. We've made Ratzon Hashem so much not alive that we can make even our orthodox practices zol v'hefker. Zol v'hefker. People can make hisbodah do zol v'hefker. You can make anything zol v'hefker. You can cheapen anything. But the bechira chofshis that you and I have today is to grab onto the Rebbe's cloak. To grab onto the Piasetzner Rebbe's cloak stronger than ever and say, Rebbe, okay, I hear your words, but I have no idea how to identify in my life what's really become zol v'hefker. I don't even know what that means. I understand it. It makes logical sense to me. But I want to understand this b'pnimius shel inyan. So I saw that our dear Chaver Shimon wrote in the text, he added in the text here something very important. Look into the text, into the chat. I think that that's the best way to go from a Torah like this today. Because none of us want our lives to be zol v'hefker. But if we could each take a moment and write out a tefillah based on what we just did right now, this is the way, this is the avodah, this is the tzav hashah. So I give us all a bracha. We'll learn again later in the week in the mornings. Tonight, tell your wives, we have Reb Nachman at 8 o'clock. We're doing a fascinating teaching, Torah Memches in Tinyana. Amazing Torah from Reb Nachman to identify emuna versus hargasha. And there's a lot more going on. Just be in touch with me directly. But for now, Chavra, the Rebbe keeps on bringing us together. Hashem Yisbarach should lishma kol tfilatenu. That when we really shavas anim atas sishma tzaakas adal takshibis yeshia. I had the schus of davening shacharis with my daughters for the first time this past Shabbos. And Tiferet, I asked her, she never did nishmas. I said, Tiffy, daven nishmas. And she finished nishmas. I said, what stood out for you? I wanted to know what words from nishmas stood out for her. So she pointed out, she said, Abba, shavat aniyim atat tishma. That's what stuck out to me. Made my heart so happy. Ribono Shleim. If this is what a 10-year-old girl in Eretz Yisrael speaks out to her, then please, on her schus, shava sanim ata sishma, we should hear our own shava as well. We should hear our own crying as well. We should identify the places in our life we wanted to stop being Hefker. And Bezrat Hashem, all these Torahs, we're going to dance. We're going to take the Tzav Zirus. We're going to take the Achshas Avreichim. We're going to run to the Piasetzner Rebbe, the Vias Bel Tzedek, Bekar of Mamash, and we're going to say, Rebbe, you had us. You had us in mind for days like today. I love you all, Chevra. Besorot Tovot, Yeshuot v'Nechamot. One fast, quick nigun. Shimon, don't kill me, I'm sorry. One last one. Ay, da 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 da, maya, maya, da 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 da, maya, ma, da 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 da. Ay, da 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 da, maya, maya, da da da, maya, maya, ya, da 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 da. Geula berachmim, Geula berachamim.